The lights in the new Seoul Space Station supply depot buzzed softly above the aisles. Mina walked slowly between the shelves, her small daughter Yuki holding her hand. Mina picked up items carefully, checking the price of each one twice before putting it in her basket. "Mom, can we get the sweetbread?" Yuki asked, pointing at colorful packages on a high shelf. Mina looked at the price tag and shook her head gently. "Not today, sweetie. Maybe next week?" Yuki nodded without complaining. She was used to hearing those words. At 8 years old, she already understood that money was tight. Her mother worked 3 different jobs just to pay for their small room on the station. Mina continued shopping. She picked up basic rice, some vegetables, and protein bars. These would last them a week if she was careful. She counted the credits in her head as she walked. 38 credits total. Her account should have 45 credits from her last paycheck. At the checkout counter, a young man named Park Jin-ho smiled at them. He was maybe 20 years old with kind eyes and a tired face. He worked long hours at the depot to help support his own family. "Good morning," Jin-ho said as he scanned their items. "How are you today?" "We're doing well, thank you," Mina replied politely. Jin-ho scanned the last item. "That will be 47 credits, please." Mina's heart sank. She had counted wrong. She pulled out her payment card and handed it to Jin-ho with shaking fingers. Maybe she had made a mistake about her account balance. Jin-ho swiped the card. The machine beeped with a red light. "I'm sorry, the card was declined." "Insufficient funds." Mina's face turned red with embarrassment. Other customers were waiting behind her. She could feel their eyes watching. I need to return some items, please." She reached for the protein bars first. Those cost 12 credits. That would bring the total down to 35 credits, which should work. "No problem," Jin-ho said quietly. He started to scan the return. "Mom?" Yuki tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Are we not getting food?" "We're getting food, baby, just a little less," Mina whispered. Behind them, someone sighed loudly with impatience. Mina wanted to disappear. She had been in this situation before, but it never got easier. Jin-ho looked at the little girl, then at her mother. He saw how Mina tried to hide her shame. He saw how thin they both looked. He knew that look. His own family had been hungry many times when he was growing up. "Actually," Jin-ho said, stopping the return process, "let me try your card again. Sometimes the machine makes mistakes." "But it already said." Mina started. "Just let me try," Jin-ho said with a smile. He pretended to swipe her card again. Instead, he quickly pressed buttons on his register and swiped his own employee card. The machine beeped with a green light. "There we go. It worked this time," he said, handing her card back. Mina stared at him in confusion. "But how?" "Sometimes the system is slow. No problem." Jin-ho bagged all their groceries, including the protein bars. "Have a great day." Mina knew something was wrong. The card reader had clearly shown insufficient funds. But Jin-ho was already helping the next customer. She didn't want to cause more trouble by asking questions. "Thank you," she said quietly, taking the bags. As they walked away, Yuki looked back at Jin-ho and waved. He waved back with a big smile. What Mina didn't know was that Jin-ho had paid the 12 credit difference from his own account. His shift pay for the entire day was only 60 credits. He had just spent a fifth of his daily earnings on strangers. Kim Dae-ho, the store manager, had watched the whole thing from his office. He walked over to Jin-ho after Mina left. "What did you just do?" Dae-ho asked. "The card reader was having problems," Jin-ho said, not looking up from the register. "I saw you use your employee card. You paid for their groceries." Jin-ho kept working, scanning items for the next customer. "It was just a few credits." "A few credits you don't have," Dae-ho said. "Your family needs that money too." "They needed it more," Jin-ho replied simply. Dae-ho shook his head but didn't say anything else. He had seen many cashiers over the years, but none like Jin-ho. The young man regularly helped customers in small ways. He never asked for anything in return. High above in the station security center, Captain Ron watched the interaction through the surveillance cameras. Ron was not human. He belonged to a species called Vortakians, who looked like tall, thin people with gray skin and large black eyes. Ron was on New Seoul Station to study human behavior. His species was trying to understand how humans functioned in society. The Vortakians were confused by many human actions. "Computer, replay the last 5 minutes of checkout counter 7, Ron commanded. He watched the scene again. The human male had given away his own resources to help strangers. This made no sense to Vortakian logic. The action provided no benefit to the giver. It actually harmed his own survival chances. Computer. Analyze the economic efficiency of the observed transaction. Transaction shows negative 17% efficiency for the primary actor, the computer responded. Action classified as economically irrational. Ron made notes on his datapad. This was the 15th time this month he had observed similar behavior from humans on the station. They regularly helped each other without any apparent benefit to themselves. His report to the Vortakian High Council would be interesting. How had humans survived and thrived as a species when they constantly acted against their own interests? Meanwhile, Mina and Yuki walked home through the station corridors. Their small room was in the cheaper section, where families like theirs lived. The walls were thin and the air recycling system was old and noisy. "Mom, why was that man so nice?" Yuki asked as they put away the groceries. "Some people are just kind, sweetheart. Will we see him again?" "Probably. We shop there every week." That night, Mina lay in bed thinking about what had happened. She knew Jinho had helped them somehow. Young Cashiers didn't make much money. He probably needed those credits for his own family. She decided she would find a way to pay him back. Maybe she could pick up an extra shift cleaning offices. It would be hard, but it felt like the right thing to do. In his own small room across the station, Jinho ate a simple dinner of rice and vegetables. He didn't regret spending the money. When he saw that little girl's worried face, he couldn't let them go hungry. His mother always told him that helping others was never wrong, even when you had little to give. Some things were more important than money. Neither Mina nor Jinho knew that their simple interaction had been recorded and studied. They had no idea that alien observers were trying to understand why humans acted with such strange kindness. They just went to sleep that night, knowing they had met a good person in a difficult world. 3 days after the grocery store incident, Choi Sunmi knocked on Mina's door. Sunmi was an elderly woman who lived 2 doors down the hall. She had gray hair and kind eyes that reminded Mina of her own grandmother. "Good morning, dear," Sunmi said when Mina opened the door. "I heard about what happened at the depot." Mina's face turned red. "Oh, that. It was nothing. Just a small mix-up with my payment card." Sunmi smiled knowingly. "Word travels fast in the human quarter. That young cashier, Jinho, he paid for your groceries, didn't he?" Mina looked down at the floor. She felt embarrassed that people were talking about her problems. "I don't know what you mean." "Child, there's no shame in needing help. We all struggle sometimes." Sunmi held up a small bag. "I brought some extra vegetables from my garden pod. And I have a proposition for you." "A proposition?" "I know you work 3 jobs. That must be hard with little Yuki. I'm retired and lonely. How about I watch her after school? No charge. She can do her homework at my place and I'll make sure she has a snack." Mina's eyes filled with tears. "I can't ask you to do that. You barely know us. That's exactly why I want to do it. Jinho helped you without knowing you. Now I want to help. That's how community works." That same afternoon, Han Woo-jin was fixing pipes in the station's lower levels when he heard 2 maintenance workers talking about the grocery store story. Woo-jin was a quiet man who kept to himself, but the story made him think. He remembered being a child and watching his mother count coins to buy food. He remembered the shame on her face when she couldn't afford everything they needed. After his shift, Woo-jin went to the housing office and looked up Mina's apartment number. He had noticed that the heating units in that section were old and often broke down. Winter was coming and the station's outer sections got very cold. He knocked on Mina's door that evening. She opened it carefully, not recognizing him. "Hello, I'm Woo-jin from maintenance. I'm doing routine checks on heating units. Can I look at yours?" Mina let him in. Woo-jin examined the heating unit and found what he expected. The thermal regulator was failing and 2 heating coils were almost burned out. "This needs repair," he told her. "I'll put in a work order." "How much will that cost?" Mina asked nervously. "Standard maintenance is covered by your housing fees," Woo-jin lied smoothly. He would fix it himself using spare parts and not report it. The next day, Dr. Song Mire was reviewing medical files when she noticed that Yuki Lee had missed her required annual checkup. The girl's mother had probably skipped it because of the cost. Dr. Song called Mina. "Mrs. Lee? This is Dr. Song from the medical center. Your daughter needs her annual physical for school records." "Oh yes, I've been meaning to schedule that." "What does it cost?" "For children, it's free through the station health program." Dr. Song said. This wasn't exactly true, but she would find a way to cover the cost. Really? I thought there was a fee. Not for school-required physicals. Can you bring her in tomorrow? While all this was happening, Ambassador Thek from the Rigelian Diplomatic Corps was reviewing security reports from various human settlements. The Rigelians were tall, blue-skinned beings who prided themselves on logical thinking. Thek had been assigned to monitor human colonies for the Galactic Trade Union. His job was to make sure humans followed proper economic protocols and didn't disrupt trade relationships. The report from New Sol Station puzzled him. Multiple instances of humans giving away resources without receiving anything in return. This violated basic economic principles that every civilized species followed. He called Captain Ron. I need more detailed reports on these anomalous human behaviors. Are they spreading? Yes, Ambassador. Since the grocery store incident, we've recorded 12 similar acts. Humans helping other humans with no expectation of payment or return favors. This is concerning. Such behavior could destabilize market economics if it spreads to other species. Continue monitoring. Back on the station, word of the kindness chain was spreading through social media and personal conversations. Humans loved stories about people helping each other, especially when times were hard. Lim Sora, a journalist who worked for the station news network, heard about the story from her neighbor. She decided to investigate. She found Jinho working his evening shift at the depot. He was surprised when she introduced herself as a reporter. I don't understand why this is news, Jinho said while restocking shelves. I just helped someone who needed it, but you used your own money. You're not wealthy. Why did you do it? Jinho paused in his work. Have you ever been hungry? Really hungry? No, I haven't. I have. When I was a kid, my family went through hard times. I remember my mom trying to choose between buying food and paying rent. I remember being embarrassed when other kids had lunch and I didn't. He continued stocking cans while he talked. When I saw that little girl and her mom, I saw myself and my mother. How could I let them go hungry when I had the power to help? But what about your own family? Don't you need that money? Of course I do. But they needed it more in that moment. My family won't starve because I spent 12 credits. That mother and daughter might have. Sora recorded the interview and published it the next day. The story spread quickly through human social networks across the galaxy. Other humans began sharing their own stories of unexpected kindness. A teacher on Mars Station who bought shoes for a student. A mechanic on Europa who fixed a family's broken shuttle for free. A doctor on Titan Colony who didn't charge for treating a sick child. The stories kept coming. Humans helping humans, often at personal cost. With no expectation of reward, An Kyung-ho, the elected representative for New Sol Station's human quarter, started getting messages from humans on other stations. They wanted to know more about their community. Some asked if they could visit or even move there. It's like we're becoming famous for being decent to each other, Kyung-ho told his wife over dinner. Is that really so unusual? His wife laughed. Apparently it is to the aliens. I heard the Vortakian Observer has been asking people why we waste resources on strangers. Meanwhile, Mina was overwhelmed by the unexpected support from her neighbors. Sunmi was watching Yuki every afternoon, and the little girl loved spending time with the elderly woman. Woojin had fixed their heating unit perfectly, and their apartment was warm for the first time in months. Dr. Song had given Yuki a complete physical and declared her healthy. When Mina tried to pay people back, they refused. Pay it forward, Sunmi told her. Help someone else when you can. That's how it works, Woojin said when she offered to pay for the heating repair. We help each other, Mina finally understood. This wasn't charity. This was community. People helping each other because they were all human, all struggling, all trying to make life a little better for their families. She started looking for ways to help others. She was good at organizing, so she started a group for single parents to share resources and babysitting duties. She helped elderly neighbors with their computers and applications for station services. But the aliens watching from their observation posts didn't understand any of this. To them, it looked like humans were deliberately damaging their own economic efficiency. They couldn't comprehend acting against personal interest for the benefit of strangers. The reports they sent to their home governments all said the same thing. Humans were exhibiting dangerous and irrational behavior that threatened the stability of galactic economic systems. None of the humans knew that their simple acts of kindness were being classified as a potential threat to galactic civilization. They just continued helping each other because it felt like the right thing to do. And in the depot, Jinho continued working his shifts, treating every customer with kindness and respect. He never expected his small act of generosity would start something much bigger than he could imagine. Professor Keth arrived on New Sol Station 3 weeks after Lim Sora's news story went viral across human networks. Keth was a Zentarian, a species known for their scientific minds and logical approach to understanding other cultures. He looked like a tall, thin human with pale green skin and 4 arms. Keth had been sent by the Galactic Research Institute to study what they called the human anomaly. His job was to understand why humans kept acting against their own economic interests. This behavior violates every principle of evolutionary survival. Keth explained to his research team via video call. Species that waste resources on unrelated individuals should not survive, yet humans are thriving across the galaxy. His first interview was with Jinho. They met in a small conference room at the station's administration office. Keth set up recording equipment and pulled out a data pad full of questions. "Mr. Park, thank you for agreeing to speak with me," Keth said in careful, translated Standard Galactic. "I want to understand your decision to pay for another family's food." Jinho shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "It wasn't really a decision. I just saw they needed help. But you needed those credits yourself. Your financial records show you live paycheck to paycheck. How do you know about my financial records?" "Standard research protocol. We have permission from station authorities." Keth made notes on his pad. "My question is, why did you choose to harm your own survival chances to help strangers?" Jinho stared at the alien professor. "Harm my survival chances? I spent 12 credits. I wasn't going to starve. But those credits could have been saved for future emergencies. You reduced your financial security for no logical benefit." "No logical benefit?" Jinho's voice got louder. "A hungry child got food. Her mother didn't have to feel ashamed. That's not logical to you?" Keth wrote furiously. "But you received nothing in return. No payment, no favors, no increase in social status. Where is the benefit to you?" Jinho was quiet for a long moment. "Professor, have you ever had children? Centaurians do not form emotional attachments to offspring. We raise children in community centers for optimal efficiency." "Then you wouldn't understand," Jinho said. "When I saw that little girl's worried face, I couldn't let her go hungry. Not when I had the power to help. This emotional response you describe, it seems to override logical thinking. Is this common among humans?" "I hope so," Jinho said firmly. Commander Voss from the Core World's military was also on the station, officially for routine security inspections. But his real mission was to assess whether human behavior patterns posed a threat to galactic stability. Voss was human himself, but he had been raised on the core worlds among alien species. He thought more like them than like the humans he was studying. He interviewed An Kyung-ho, the human quarters representative. "Mr. An, are you aware that human settlements are developing a reputation for economic inefficiency?" Voss asked. "Economic inefficiency? Our communities are thriving. People are happy. Crime is low. Productivity is high. But resources are being wasted on non-productive activities. Citizens are giving away materials, time, and money without receiving compensation." Kyung-ho laughed. "Commander, with respect, you sound like you've spent too much time away from human communities. What you call waste, we call taking care of each other. Taking care of people outside your family unit serves no evolutionary purpose." "Maybe not," Kyung-ho agreed, "but it serves a human purpose. We're social beings. We survive by helping each other, not by competing with each other." Voss made notes in his report. These humans clearly didn't understand the danger of their own behavior patterns. Meanwhile, Lim Sora's follow-up articles were spreading the story beyond human space. Alien news networks picked up the reports, though they presented them very differently. The Rigelian News called it human economic. "Dysfunction spreads across colonies," the Vortakian broadcast titled their story "Dangerous. Illogical behavior threatens trade stability." The Centaurian scientific journal published an article called "Species-Wide Mental Deficiency Observed in Human Populations," but among humans, the story had a different effect. Communities across human space started organizing mutual aid groups. People shared resources more freely. The elderly received more care. Children in need got help faster. Dr. Song Mire noticed the change in her medical practice. More parents brought their children for checkups because neighbors offered to help with costs. Elderly patients received better care because younger community members checked on them regularly. It's like people remembered how to be human, she told her husband. They're not just surviving anymore. They're actually living. But not everyone was happy with these developments. The station's trade coordinator, an alien named Zek Prime, called a meeting with the human leadership. These irregular resource transfers are disrupting our economic models, Zek Prime announced. When humans give away goods and services without proper compensation, it affects trade calculations with other species. How? Asked Kyung-ho. Our computers cannot predict human economic behavior. This makes trade negotiations difficult. Other species don't understand why humans value things that have no measurable worth. Things like kindness and community support? Precisely. These concepts have no economic value. They cannot be traded, measured, or quantified. Kyung-ho exchanged looks with the other human representatives. Maybe that's exactly why they're valuable. The meeting ended without resolution. The aliens wanted humans to behave more predictably. The humans wanted to continue building stronger communities. Professor Keth continued his research, interviewing dozens of humans. He spoke with Mina, who had become a community organizer. He talked to Sunmi, who now watched several neighborhood children. He interviewed Woojin, who had started teaching other workers how to do basic repairs for free. Every interview confused him more. Why do you spend your free time helping people who cannot help you in return? He asked Sunmi. Because they need help, she replied simply. But what do you gain? Sunmi thought for a moment. I gain a reason to get up in the morning. I gain the knowledge that I made someone's life a little easier. I gain the smiles of children who feel safe and cared for. These gains cannot be measured or traded. No, Sunmi agreed. They can't. That's what makes them precious. Keth's reports to the Galactic Research Institute became more and more puzzled. Every human he interviewed gave similar answers. They helped others because it felt right. They shared resources because they had more than others needed. They cared for children and elderly people because those people mattered. None of it made sense according to any known principles of species behavior. The humans appear to operate on an entirely different survival strategy, Keth wrote in his final report. They strengthen their community as a whole rather than focusing on individual advancement. This should make them weaker, but observational data shows the opposite effect. Their communities are more stable, their people are healthier and happier, and their economic output is actually higher than predicted models suggest. They achieve better results through supposedly inefficient methods. I recommend immediate further study to understand how this is possible. But other alien observers were reaching different conclusions. They saw human behavior as a threat that needed to be controlled before it spread to other species and disrupted the careful economic balance of galactic civilization. Deep in space, alien governments were beginning to discuss what they called the human problem. Meanwhile, on New Seoul Station, Jinho finished another shift at the depot. He had helped 3 more families that day, offering discounts when their payment card showed insufficient funds. It had become second nature to him. He walked home through corridors filled with the sound of children playing and neighbors talking. The human quarter felt more alive than it had in years. None of the humans realized that their simple acts of kindness had caught the attention of powers much greater than themselves. They just continued living according to their own values, not knowing that those values were about to be put to the ultimate test. The message arrived on a Tuesday morning. Every human settlement across the galaxy received the same official communication from the Hegemony Council, the ruling body that governed trade and interaction between alien civilizations. An Kyung-ho read the message aloud to the emergency council meeting in New Seoul Station's main conference room. His voice was steady, but his hands shook slightly as he held the datapad. By order of the Hegemony Council, all human settlements will implement economic rationality protocols within 30 standard days. These protocols are designed to eliminate wasteful resource allocation and ensure efficient economic behavior consistent with galactic standards. Director Quinn arrived the next day to oversee the implementation. Quinn belonged to a species called the Moderators, beings who looked like tall, gray humans with no visible emotions. They were known throughout the galaxy for their ability to organize and control large populations. The protocols are simple, Quinn explained to the gathered human leaders. All resource transfers between individuals must be recorded and justified. Citizens may only give goods or services to family members or in exchange for equivalent value. Charity and unpaid assistance are prohibited. You're banning people from helping each other? Dr. Song asked in disbelief. We are ensuring efficient resource allocation. When individuals give away resources without compensation, it disrupts economic models and creates unpredictable market behaviors. Oh Taewon, the human ambassador to the hegemony, had traveled from the core worlds to attend the meeting. He looked tired and frustrated. Director Quinn, human communities function differently than other species. Our social cooperation is one of our strengths. It is a weakness that threatens galactic stability, Quinn replied coldly. Other species are beginning to adopt similar inefficient behaviors after observing human settlements. This cannot be allowed to continue. Beck Inha, a cultural specialist who studied alien-human relations, spoke up. What you call inefficient, we call community building. Our crime rates are lower, our productivity is higher, and our people report greater life satisfaction than most galactic averages. Satisfaction is not measurable. Crime rates and productivity can be maintained through proper resource allocation without wasteful emotional attachments. The next week, monitoring systems were installed throughout the human quarters. Cameras tracked every interaction. Computer programs analyzed all purchases and resource transfers. Citizens received warnings when their behavior was deemed economically irrational. Sunmi was the first to receive a citation. She had given vegetables from her garden pod to 3 different families in 1 week, without receiving payment. Mrs. Choi, you have violated Protocol 7, unauthorized resource distribution, the automated system announced when she tried to leave her apartment. Report to the Economic Efficiency Office for correction. At the office, a moderator clerk explained her violation. You distributed food resources worth approximately 15 credits without receiving compensation. This behavior must cease immediately. Those families needed food. I had extra vegetables. Your need for those resources was not properly assessed. The surplus should have been sold at market value or preserved for future personal use. But the children were hungry. Nutritional needs of non-family members are not your responsibility. Continued violations will result in penalties including reduced rations and possible relocation. Word of Sunmi's citation spread quickly through the human community. People were frightened and angry but also confused. How could helping others be wrong? Jinho received his citation a few days later. The automated system had flagged his frequent discount adjustments and personal payments for customer purchases. Mr. Park, you have accumulated 17 violations of Protocol 3, unauthorized financial assistance, the moderator clerk informed him. This pattern of behavior indicates a significant dysfunction requiring immediate correction. I was helping customers who couldn't afford their purchases. Your role is to process payments, not to subsidize other individuals' consumption. Your employment will be terminated if violations continue. Jinho left the office feeling sick to his stomach. He needed his job to support his family. But how could he watch people go hungry when he had the power to help? The monitoring systems created a climate of fear in the human quarters. Parents stopped sharing childcare duties because it counted as unauthorized service provision. Elderly people went without help because their neighbors were afraid of citations. Community gardens were shut down because sharing produce violated resource allocation protocols. Dr. Song was forbidden from providing free medical care. When she protested that some patients couldn't afford treatment, the moderator supervisor was unmoved. Medical resources must be allocated based on payment capacity. Emotional decisions about worthiness are inefficient and disruptive. So I should let children suffer because their parents can't pay. You should treat patients who can compensate you appropriately for your time and materials. The human community began to feel like a different place. The warmth and cooperation that had made life bearable in their small corner of the galaxy was being systematically eliminated. Mina tried to organize a community meeting to discuss the situation, but gatherings of more than 5 people required permits that were always denied. When she tried to visit neighbors individually to talk about the problems, the monitoring system flagged her for suspicious coordination activities. Yang Jiwon, A maintenance worker who had become an informal leader in the resistance movement, held secret meetings in service tunnels where the cameras couldn't reach. "They're destroying everything that makes us human," she told the small group of people who dared to attend. "We can't let them turn us into emotionless efficiency machines." "But what can we do?" asked Han Wujin. "They control our trade agreements, our supply shipments, our communication systems. If we resist too openly, they could cut us off completely." "Then we resist quietly," Yang replied. "We find ways to help each other that they can't detect. We remember who we are even if we have to hide it." But hiding their humanity was taking a toll on everyone. Children stopped playing together because their laughter was flagged as non-productive noise. Elderly people became isolated because visiting them counted as unauthorized social services. Families struggled alone with problems that the whole community used to help solve. The economic data that the hegemony wanted to see did improve. Resource waste decreased. Efficiency ratings went up. Predictable economic patterns emerged in human settlements. But other statistics told a different story. Mental health problems increased dramatically. Productivity actually decreased as people became depressed and unmotivated. Crime rates began to rise for the first time in decades. Ambassador Oh Tae-wan tried to present these findings to the Hegemony Council, but they dismissed his concerns. "Adjustment periods are normal," they told him. "Humans will adapt to more efficient behavior patterns. Temporary emotional distress is acceptable for long-term stability." "You're asking us to stop being human," Oh protested. "We are asking you to become civilized." Back on New Seoul Station, the monitoring systems recorded everything but understood nothing. They counted violations and calculated efficiency ratings, but they couldn't measure the loss of hope in people's eyes, or the silence where laughter used to be. Jinho still worked at the depot, but now he processed transactions mechanically, offering no extra help or kindness. When customers couldn't afford their purchases, he simply processed returns without emotion. The job that had once given him satisfaction now felt like a prison. Mina picked up extra shifts to avoid spending time in the monitored common areas. She came home exhausted and spoke to her neighbors only when necessary. Yuki asked why people didn't smile anymore, but Mina didn't know how to explain. The human community was becoming exactly what the aliens wanted: efficient, predictable, and emotionally sterile. But in achieving their goal, they were destroying the very thing that had made human society successful in the first place. Late at night, in the service tunnels where Yang Jiwon's resistance group met, people whispered about better times when neighbors cared for each other and strangers were treated with kindness. "We have to find a way," Yang told them. "We can't let them take away what makes us human. There has to be something we can do." But none of them knew that help was coming from an unexpected source. Deep in space, an ancient observer had been watching the situation unfold. Someone who remembered what the galaxy had lost long ago, when other species chose efficiency over compassion. Someone who understood that the humans were about to face a choice that would determine not just their own future, but the future of all civilized life in the galaxy. The ship appeared without warning in the space above New Seoul Station. It was unlike anything the hegemony forces had ever seen. Ancient, elegant, and somehow alive. The hull seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, and it emitted no energy signatures that their sensors could identify. General Zor, the hegemony military commander overseeing the human protocols, immediately ordered his fleet to surround the mysterious vessel. "Unknown ship, identify yourself and state your business." The response came not through communication systems, but as a voice that seemed to speak directly into the minds of everyone who heard it. "I am Elder Nithara, last of the Forgotten Ones. I come to speak with the humans." Director Quinn arrived on his command ship within hours, accompanied by representatives from every major alien species in the hegemony. The Forgotten Ones were legend, an ancient race that had supposedly transcended physical existence eons ago. "Elder Nithara, if you truly are what you claim, you must understand the importance of maintaining galactic order. These humans threaten economic stability with their irrational behaviors." Nithara's ship moved closer to the station. Through the viewports, beings throughout the hegemony fleet could see a figure standing in what appeared to be empty space. Tall, luminous, and impossibly ancient. "I understand more than you know. Director Quinn, I understand because my people once faced the same choice you are forcing upon the humans. On New Seoul Station, Yang Jiwan was leading another secret meeting in the service tunnels when the lights flickered, and a gentle voice filled the space. Do not be afraid. I wish to speak with you. The resistance members looked around in confusion until a soft glow appeared in the tunnel. The light formed into the shape of a being that looked somewhat like a tall, graceful human, but with features that seemed to shift and change like starlight. My name is Nithara. I have been watching your struggle. Are you here to help us? Yang asked, though she wasn't sure why she felt she could trust this strange being. I am here to tell you a story, Nithara replied. A story about my people, who lived 10 million years ago in a galaxy much like this one. The image of Nithara appeared simultaneously in gathering places throughout human space, speaking to communities that had been broken apart by the economic rationality protocols. We were once like you, Nithara told them. We helped strangers without expectation of reward. We shared resources freely. We cared for our young and elderly as if they were all our own children and parents. On the Hegemony command ship, alien leaders watched nervously as Nithara's story unfolded. But other species in our galaxy thought we were foolish. They said our kindness was inefficient. They convinced us that logic and resource optimization were more important than emotional connections. Nithara's voice carried pain that seemed older than stars. So we changed. We became rational. We eliminated waste. We made every decision based on maximum efficiency. In the depot where Jinho worked, customers and employees alike stopped what they were doing as Nithara's words filled the air. We became the most advanced civilization the galaxy had ever seen. Our technology was perfect. Our resource allocation was flawless. Our society ran with absolute efficiency. And we died inside, Nithara continued. Not physically, we lived for thousands of years. But spiritually, emotionally, we became empty. We had gained the galaxy and lost our souls. Mina held Yuki close as they listened in their small apartment. Around them, neighbors emerged from their units to hear the ancient being's words. By the time we realized what we had lost, it was too late. We had forgotten how to feel compassion. We had forgotten how to help others without calculating benefit. We had forgotten what it meant to be truly alive. My people transcended physical existence not through enlightenment, but through emptiness. We became beings of pure thought because we no longer had hearts worth preserving. Professor Keth, listening from his research station, felt something he had never experienced before. Understanding that went beyond logic. I am the last of my kind because I alone remembered what we used to be. For 10 million years I have searched the galaxy for another species that carried the gift we threw away. And then I found you, Nithara said, her voice filled with something that might have been hope. Humans who choose kindness over efficiency. Humans who help strangers at personal cost. Humans who understand that some things are more valuable than material wealth. General Zor interrupted the transmission. Enough of this nonsense. These emotional displays serve no purpose. The humans will comply with efficiency protocols or face consequences. But Nithara's attention turned to him, and her voice carried the weight of eons. General, your species once had the capacity for compassion too. All of them did. Look at your historical records. Look at your oldest stories and songs. You will find traces of what you used to be. Across the Hegemony fleet, alien crew members began accessing their species' ancient databases. The oldest Rigelian texts spoke of beings who helped others freely. The earliest Vortakian legends told of sacrifice for the greater good. Even the moderator's most ancient programming contained references to concepts like mercy and selflessness. You see, Nithara said, every species in this galaxy once had what the humans still possess. You traded it away for efficiency, for logic, for material advancement. And look what you have become. The beings listening to her words began to see their civilizations differently. They were advanced, yes. Efficient, certainly. But when was the last time any of them had felt joy? When had they last helped someone simply because it was right? On New Seoul Station, the monitoring systems recorded massive violations as humans throughout the quarters began helping each other openly. But for the first time, the authorities hesitated to respond. Sunmi knocked on Mina's door with a basket of vegetables, not caring about the citations she would receive. Jinho began offering discounts again at the depot, looking customers in the eye with genuine warmth. Dr. Song treated patients regardless of their ability to pay. Yang Jiwan led her resistance group out of the tunnels and into the common areas. where they began organizing community aid openly. "The choice is before you now," Nithara announced to the entire galaxy. "You can force the humans to become like you, efficient, logical, and spiritually dead. Or you can learn from them how to become truly alive again. But humans are dangerous," Director Quinn protested. "Their unpredictable behavior disrupts economic models." "Yes," Nithara agreed. "They are dangerous to a galaxy that has forgotten how to feel. They threaten an order built on emptiness. They challenge systems that optimize everything except what makes life worth living." Ambassador Otewan, who had been listening from the core worlds, spoke up for the first time. "Elder Nithara, what are you asking of us?" "I am asking you to choose. Will you destroy the last species that remembers how to love without condition, or will you let them teach you how to remember what you have lost?" The silence that followed lasted for several minutes. Throughout the galaxy, beings who had lived their entire lives according to logic and efficiency found themselves questioning everything they believed. Finally, it was Professor Keth who spoke. "Elder Nithara, if we chose to learn from the humans, would it be possible for our species to regain what we have lost?" "It would take generations," Nithara replied, "and it would require you to value things that cannot be measured or traded. But yes, it is possible. My people's example proves that the capacity for compassion, once lost, can be remembered." The debate that followed lasted for days. Some alien leaders insisted that efficiency and order were more important than emotional considerations. Others began to wonder if their civilizations had indeed lost something precious. In the end, it was the voice of an ordinary human that decided the matter. Yuki, who had been listening quietly to the adult conversations, asked a question that no one could answer with logic alone. "Why don't the alien people want us to be nice to each other anymore?" The simplicity of the question, asked without guile or calculation, somehow contained all the complexity of the situation. A child wondering why kindness was forbidden, it revealed the fundamental absurdity of what the hegemony was trying to achieve. The economic rationality protocols were suspended pending further study. The monitoring systems were shut down. Human communities were given permission to return to their traditional social structures. But more importantly, something had been awakened across the galaxy. Beings who had lived for centuries, without feeling genuine emotion, began to remember what it was. Like to care about others, it would take time, perhaps generations, for alien species to rediscover their capacity for selfless kindness. But the process had begun. And it all started with a young cashier who couldn't let a hungry child go without food, and a community that remembered that taking care of each other was more important than efficient resource allocation. Jinho never learned that his simple act of generosity had sparked a revolution that would change the galaxy. He just continued working at the depot, helping customers and treating everyone with the kindness his mother had taught him. Some things, after all, were more important than credits. Some things were worth preserving even when they seemed inefficient. Some things made life worth living, even if they couldn't be measured or traded. The humans had reminded the galaxy what those things were,